Welcome to another chapter of the Tao Te Ching. We're moving right on to 30. We're 30 down. This is great. Of course, we're going to 81. Hopefully, we'll have that done in a couple of weeks. But here we are doing the Tao Does Not Dominate. This is there's a couple ways of translating this, and one is you don't overdo it. Allow things to be as they are. If violence needs to be used, we use violence, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, once we have struck that chord, whatever that is, whether it's our words, right, we weaponize or whatever, we stop. We don't continue to beat other people down. There is oftentimes a desire to be like, oh, I was right, and it felt so good to be right, and I want to be told that I'm right over and over again, right? When we make an argument or something, it's like, no, we make an argument, and that's it. We leave it alone. Whether we win or lose or whatever, we move past it. We don't dominate things, and we don't try and remind people of what we've done or what the past holds and all of this stuff, even if those moments made us feel good or powerful. There are other ways to translate this as well, in terms of like not being violent, being peaceful through something, but it's very possible that you might need to use violence at some point. But once you do, don't dominate. Like, finish it, do enough to finish it, and walk away. Don't keep harboring on the point. That's kind of how I see this one. So let's see what it says and see if we can kind of glean anything more than that. Governing in any capacity when led by Tao doesn't use force to gain power. Every force applied will suffer equal counterforce. So violence, however it is intended, will always rebound upon itself. Where armies march, briars grow, and in their wake follows hunger and villainy. Skillful in what she does, the master achieves her goal and then stops, neither forcing nor manipulating further. She knows that dominating goes counter to Tao, and so whoever opposes Tao will certainly die early. Governing in any capacity. And when we talk about governing, and as we start to move into section 2 of the Tao Te Ching, which is coming up, I think it's 36. It's 37. 37 is the end of chapter 1. When we start going into part 2, section 2 of the Tao, we start talking more about governing. And when I talk about governing your body, governing other people, governing a situation, whatever, in any capacity when led by Tao, doesn't use force to gain power. It doesn't use force to get people to agree with you. It doesn't use force to do anything. We're not trying to force an issue. We're going to state our case, and that's it. Now, it moves into violence, this one, right? Like, so every force applied will suffer equal counterforce. So violence, however it is intended, will always rebound upon itself. Now, it's moving into this state of violence, right? Like, force doesn't always have to be violent, but forcing anybody to do or think or manipulate is violence, even if it's marketing, right? Even if you're just stating what your company does, but it's like, but if you're telling people they are doing something wrong, like, right, like all those like headlines and stuff that are like, if you're not doing this, you're wrong, and to get people to like click, that's forcing, right? Like, you know what that's going to do, and you do it so that you can force people into submitting to your clicking, right? Your desire for them to click on something. So violence, and that's violent because you're kind of imposing yourself on another person, however it is intended, will always rebound upon itself. Where armies march, briars grow. So that a briar, of course, is a field of thorns, and I see it as a field of thorns that's unpassable, right? So you have armies go through this, and what you're doing is, nobody involved in a violent act, nobody involved in a manipulative act is going to come out of that feeling good. So if you're manipulating, you're going to come out afraid of being manipulated and closed-hearted and stuff. And if people feel manipulated, they're going to do the same thing. And that closed-hearted, that coldness, that's going to create that briar. It's like armies marched there, and like all of these, like you can just see like army boots like trampling a field. And what's left behind is this briar that's unpassable, full of thorns, protecting itself all the time. And in their wake follows hunger and villainy. You know, like you manipulate someone, then they think that they should go out and manipulate someone. And this is kind of this is what I see with like the Stanford prison experiment and things like that, where we do something and we actually intentionally, but not necessarily with malintent. You know, we're doing something to edge something into dirtiness, and then we edge people, right? Like I look at Zimbardo as being the problem for the experiment. I don't see him as having contributed anything, but malintent. He's not, he's not a good person, like he's very selfish, and he, definitely like grew some briar in his life, right? Like his life was difficult, because it was difficult to be him. So either way, skillful in what she does, the master achieves her goal and stops, neither forcing nor manipulating further. That's the thing. There's no, like, once you achieve your goal, stop. Don't push it any further. Don't try and gain from it. Don't try and like remind people that you did this thing, you achieved your goal. So what? Drop it. You're not there anymore. You're here now. If they're not going to hear you, they're not going to hear you. Let them not hear you. That's okay. That's their life. Don't try and get people to listen to you. Why do you want that? Are you listening to you? Because maybe that's the problem. And that's the thing. The master achieves her goal and stops, neither forcing nor manipulating further. She knows that dominating goes counter to Tao, and whoever opposes Tao will certainly die early. And that doesn't necessarily mean die as in like physical death. It just means like that identity. And maybe you just won't be heard. Confucius talks a lot about this idea that to succeed in a broken society, you are broken. And I think that this goes into that, where when we look at the world today, we see all this dominating, we see all this manipulation, we see all this, violence, we see all this stuff that going counter to Tao. If you're succeeding in a state that is praising and appreciating all of those things, well, not much to be proud of there, right? Like, so, and of course it's hard to live in a state like this and not succeed, because then you struggle, quote unquote, right? But it's not true, right? It's not true. Like, just because you don't receive in the same manner that others receive doesn't, or in the same things that others receive, or in the same manner that you're actually struggling. It's really kind of all in how you look at it. And so here, you're governing how you live your life, and you're governing certain things in your life. But don't use force. Let people find you. Be the master, be as much of the master as you can be at this moment, and look at where you're trying to force, and maybe recognize that every force applied will suffer an equal counterforce. So where has that been happening in your life? Where are you forcing, and how has that rebound upon you? It's a good way of kind of looking at things sometimes. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for another chapter of the Tao. That was 30. We're moving into 31 next, obviously. We're just doing this one at a time. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I hope this resonated with you. And please comment if you want, and do all those sorts of things here on YouTube. Until next time, keep recovering yourself. Thank you.